So today I'm just going to do a quick fix on headstand. So headstand is an inversion that many people get a little bit nervous about. No neck pain, nothing like that if we do it correctly. So we don't need any props or anything, we're just going to start with our mat. The really cool thing about headstand is when you do actually find that place of balance where you can be stable and just hang out there and breathe. It really is about turning your perspective a different direction. So being upside down takes us to a place where we can just let ourselves be in a different zone for a moment and to breathe and to perhaps look at something from a different point of view that we otherwise couldn't notice. So let's get started. So be near the wall because you might want to use the wall. So in the beginning, quite often we use the wall in our practice just to take away that fear factor. Ideally, we eventually come away from the wall to really learn, because I know for myself, if I never came away from the wall, I just become so reliant on that place and I never find that balance point. Particularly people that are really flexy in the lower back, because you can imagine as you start to go up, you just keep sort of flipping over. And if you're in the middle of the room and that happens, obviously you're falling over, whereas if the wall's catching you, you just keep flicking too hard. So it's really about finding control. So everything in yoga is about that control and being able to be really aware of every single individual moment. So if you have to sort of flick yourself into the pose with no control, that whole transition to get up is not about control of breath, it's just about, oh my God, I've got to get up there. So in the beginning, that's fine, just to see what the sensation is to be upside down. But then ideally, we want to use core strength and flexibility to make it a little bit more graceful. So we'll just start off with positioning of arms to start with. This is really important to make sure our hands are correct as well. So everyone will be slightly different depending on the proportions of your body and what feels good for you, but just be mindful there should be no pressure on the neck. So just put your elbows down in front of you and grab hold of your elbows. So this is the distance apart your elbows should be. See how this is a straight line from my shoulder to my elbow, and then my hands come out into the center into a little triangle, and then I interlace my hands. So when I interlace my hands, don't jam the palms together. Also, you don't want to have your hands way open, because then the head pushes into the back of that and that makes the wrist really vulnerable. So what you want to have, what I've always found best for me, is to have almost like a tennis ball between my hands. So my hands are in this position here. So, and what happens is they don't jam together, they stay loose. Then this part here actually acts as like another little barrier. So my head doesn't slip in between my hands. My head just rests just here. So you can see, I put my head down and it rests just behind that little place that I've left. And that gives me another little bit of stability almost, so that I don't go too far over and that I don't roll my neck. When you're finding the positioning of your neck, you also want to make your head, you also want to make sure you're not too far forward, not too far back. For most people, when you put your head down, you'll find what the right position feels like. If you're too far forward, obviously you can imagine your neck will be this way. If you're too far back, you'll be this way. This is where we get neck pain, because the head is not in line with the rest of the spine. So the whole spine wants to be long. Tailbone, crown of the head, all one long line. When you're upside down, when you're up the straight way, either way. So we need to find that position for ourselves. So do this again. Clasp the elbows, put the elbows down on your mat. Interlace your hands out in the front. So just a nice soft interlace. You can put your thumbs lifting up, or you can interlace your thumbs as well. It's up to you. I like my thumbs up a little bit to give me more support as well, but just check it out. And then just tuck your head, not going anywhere yet, just put your head down and just play with finding the right spot for your head. Rock backwards and forwards a bit and see where it feels nicely. It feels like you're not pulling your chin too close to your chest. It feels like it's long. Okay, and then just relax and come back up. So another really important thing that I've noticed when teaching students this is to make sure, so when you start to go up, what tends to happen is the elbows go whoosh, and all of a sudden this beautiful setup that you created is like gone. You can imagine this position here is very strong. It's a right angle, yeah, pushing into the earth. What happens when you start to walk up and you forget about this strength in your arms and these start to slide out to the side? All of a sudden, this is not a very strong angle anymore. Yeah, it's not a right angle, it's not strong anymore, it's kind of jamming out to the side, which means the other point that's on the ground, your head, a lot more pressure on your head. That's when the neck starts to compact. This is not good, yeah? It's a headstand, yes, so your head is on the floor always, but you're taking the majority of the weight through your arms. So really strong energy through here, all the way down through the muscles in your back as well. That's what's going to be lifting upwards, away from the ground. So you're using the energy in the earth to lift up, to elongate your spine. Really, really beautiful release for your spine, because generally we are this way all day. So all the pressure's coming down into your lumbar spine. Upside down, all of a sudden that place, the lumbar spine where we usually have a little bit of pain or can have a little bit of pain, is free. It's free to breathe a little bit. Okay, so I'm going to get there. All right, so do the same thing again. Clasp the elbows, hands down. Really be mindful you're keeping that right angle. Head down, find your spot. Then you just want to tuck your toes under and lift your knees up like you're doing downward dog. And just stay there. So feel like you're pushing weight into your head, then push into your arms a little bit more and see how weight comes off your head. It becomes more about your arms. So your head is on the ground, but try not to let too much weight be pressing hard. You keep pressing into your forearms. Maybe start to walk your feet in. So if you have tight hammies here, this is going to be difficult, this bit. So you're going to have to bend your knees and walk your feet in there. If your hammies are okay, straight legs, walk the feet in. Just hold for a few breaths. Keep pushing down through your forearms and lifting up through your shoulders towards your hips. Breathe. And bend your knees and come down. Okay, so now your wall. If you want to use the wall to start with, just start there. So you do exactly the same as what you just did. Put your hands down all set up, then just flick up onto the wall, or try to flick up. This is where you're going to have to use a little bit of trust. The wall will catch you. So don't be too close to the wall. You want to be about a hand's distance away from the front knuckles on the wall. So don't go too close, otherwise it won't work. All right, so you put your hands down the same way as we just set up. Clasp the elbows, put the hands down. Walk the feet in. Lift one leg up. And just a little bit of hop. Okay, so for you it might look a little bit more like jump up a little bit harder, but try to come up however you need to. Bent knees, straight knees. Get both knees up. Stay. Maybe straighten the legs. Breathe. And come back in. If that part didn't happen, if you're still down there kicking, not being able to get up, patience. Push into the arms, engage the center, you've got to trust. You can get someone to give you a hand, they step next to you, and they just help you this. When you put the top leg up, they just help you, just if you're nearly there, they can show you where the wall is. But if you're a long way away, just keep trying, it'll happen. You've got to think about pelvis up, so your bum has to go up to get to the wall. Now, for those of you that are cool with that and want to try to work on the centre of the room, so in the centre of the room, if we try to come up the same way that we just did there with one leg at a time, what tends to happen is where the lower back is really flexy, we flip straight over into a back bend position. For people with a flexy back, if you come into a back bend, you're probably going to be okay, but it's not ideal. That's out of control. We want to find a place of control. So instead of trying to flick in the middle of the room, because this is a position where we're vulnerable, we could just fall over at any time. We want to create a place where we're in control of the situation and move the whole time, which requires us to use a lot of core strength. So I'm going to show you a preparation place, which is where I get all my students to go to first, before they start to think about straightening the legs. The straight legs is easy. Once you get straight legs in the air, gravity takes hold and you're kind of just hanging out there. It's the actual transition on the way up, which is 1,000 times harder. That's like a lot of things in yoga. The transition is really, really important, and as you do the transition with smoothness, that's where the beautiful grace comes from. So, what we're going to do the same thing with your hands, get all set. Head down, strong arms, shoulders pull up towards the hips, Mula Bandha on, so turn on through your center. Then you want to tuck your toes with your knees and start to walk in. Then take your right knee and just bend your knee towards your chest. And just stay there. Put the other knee down, swap. Good, so really squeeze your belly and feel like you're tilting your bum over towards the wall on the other side of you, yeah? So you want to make sure you're trying to get your bum above your shoulders. So if you're still back here, it's going to be a whole lot harder on your tummy. So the more you press over, the less you have to use in your core. Both legs down. Rest if you need to. Then you're going to do it again. One leg up. Then try to lean far enough. You might do a little bit of a jump there. And see if you can lift the other leg off the floor. And just balance there. Hug the knees right down to your chest.
Then your center is working a huge amount. Breathe. And come down slowly.
So if you can find that place, that is going to build strength. So for me, this is something that I used to do a lot, to be able to come into the transition with a lot of grace. So once you get that, so that's something you want to work on over and over again. If you're in the middle of the room and you're feeling like, I'm going to tip over, go back to your wall and do the same thing with your wall there. So try to pull one knee into your chest, and then try to pull the other knee by doing a little bit of a push. If your bum hits the wall, your bum hits the wall. Yeah, you just know how far you've got to go then. Also getting someone to tell you where your bum is. If your bum is sort of still way back on this side, you need to allow yourself to go that way. Because when you're upside down, the perspective of where you are sometimes gets a bit, you know, a bit off. So you sort of think, maybe I'm going to fall over, and the reality is you know when you're coming all the way over. So it's just sort of finding your own balance basically. So a lot of inversions, it takes a long time to find out where you need to be and where your own balance is. So you need to visually see that and use the wall to help you tactilely, and then you start to feel your own place, and you know how far you've got to lean over to get the feet to come off the ground. So once you get that, then you want to start to work on the straight leg transition. So I'll show you that now, and this is a really beautiful way once again to find core strength and to set up your whole body ready to go, so when you get to the top, it's just a nice balance. So it's exactly the same setup, same arms, head down in that spot, walk the feet in. Now I'm just tipping my bottom over. I want to get to the position I squeeze through my center, legs come off. Active through all my limbs, so it's nice and smooth, all the way up towards the sky. Find a place of center. Gravity helps you, so less weight on the arms now, because it's all just pulling up. Keep the feet active, point or flexed. Make sure the ribs don't come out, so you're still engaging all of under. And breathe. It's the place where it's really cool. Just let yourself settle there. So many different variations we can do here. We can work lotus legs. But nothing else changes. And ideally, we want to come back down exactly the way we came up. Down a little bit harder. Slowly, slowly, slowly. Touch. When you come down, take a nice little child's pose. And just breathe. So that's headstand. So many different places to be at, always little progressions to work on. So wherever you are, you start the same. Foundation set up exactly the same. If you're struggling on getting up, you've got to start to think about letting go of fear, getting a little bit more core strength, a bit more strength through the shoulders so it's not too much weight on your neck. If you get to the middle of the room and the two knees into your chest is not working, same again, more core strength and just letting yourself come over a little bit further. Hamstrings tight, you've got to flick further so it makes it more difficult. This is really where you start to think headstand has nothing to do with flexibility, but it does, because if you have more flexibility, you can walk in further towards your head so you can actually get the legs straighter coming in, so it makes the transition a lot smoother. This is where that beautiful little sutra, Sthira Sukham Asana, really comes into play, that strength and that softness, flexibility and strength, the effort, the ease, it's all equally in our practice. So keep practicing, and hopefully you will enjoy a headstand. And you'll be able to close your eyes and just softly breathe, and then you'll feel good. Yeah. So enjoy. Namaste.